Among the various fields of sciences that were developed in ancient China, physics was relatively not as advanced as other subjects that we have discussed, such as medical sciences, astrometry, etc. However, there was one exception. That is the area of acoustic, or the study of sound. As we all know, sound travels by waves, and according to some early historical records, the concept of waves appeared to fascinate the ancient Chinese. From the archaeological findings of pottery, we can clearly see the pattern of waves. In fact, wave phenomenon was quite commonly found on ceramic artifacts in Yangshao cultural period during the Neolithic age. It's quite easy to identify the Yangshao culture. They are characteristically showing these wave-like patterns such as spirals or ripples. These patterns may have come from their observation of the atmosphere, or in coastal area, the sea waves. Another form of historical record appeared almost as soon as we had written literature. That is the record of songs. In fact, we could argue that most of the oldest literature that we could see are, in fact, songs or lyrics. In this very old song called Dange, it records all these maneuvers, actions related to hunting. So chances are this was from before the agricultural age, when hunting activity was quite common. And in another example, La Ji, it talks about the earth, the environment, the animals such as insects, and how they react and interact with each other. These records are 4,000 years old, and we have no clue to figure out why they were written. It could be just like a pop song back then, or they could have been written by the government to serve some kind of political purposes. One of the very well-recognized books of songs is Xi Jing, literally means the Book of Songs. It has recorded over 300 folk songs, including government rituals, civilian rituals or protocols, and even living of the people. These are probably the most systematic and complete records of earliest folk songs in China. You may argue that these are just indirect evidence of ancient Chinese acoustic development, because none of these are actually making any sound, but somehow related to sound or music. Then, next, let's look at some direct evidence, musical instruments. In many Neolithic archaeological sites, primitive musical instruments were uncovered. A lot of them were made with animal bones, but another common material that may surprise you was bamboo. Bamboo turned out to be very useful material for making instruments because it's very sturdy, very hard, resistant to weathering, and most importantly, is hollow inside. Therefore, it was a very suitable material for making instruments such as flutes. We could also see instruments made with pottery or natural material like clay horns. These are deliberately molded into a horn shape so that people at the time could actually play a particular note. For example, these taoxun are basically clay whistlers that produce some particular tones. As you can see, some of them are molded into the shape of an animal or a beast, but the usage of the object was for producing sound. However, in terms of the knowledge and science of acoustic of sound, we could only able to find sporadic, scattered records and descriptions, mixed with other literature. For example, a question raised by Guanji was the relation between water waves, and water movements. So obviously people back then had the curiosity but not the method nor the knowledge to answer these questions. From another historical record, we could see the observations made by ancient Chinese people. In a book called Discourses on Balance, Wang Chang described that sound emitted from ant can't reach men's ears, meaning that he already noticed that there was a certain audible range for human being, and waves beyond that could not be perceived by human ears. Also, he observed that there's a continuous relation between wave, vibration, power, and the distance. But it's unfortunate that we couldn't find any evidence showing that ancient people had systematic theories or scientific methods in acoustic study. Does it mean that they really didn't have the knowledge? This is a question for our further discussion.